Welcome to another financially fabulous episode. I'm Limor, and I gotta tell you, you do not need to be a financial planner to be crushing it with your finances. I'm not. In today's episode, I'm gonna be talking about how to ask for a raise. Come on, this will be fabulous. I know that asking for a raise can feel so scary, maybe even worse than the dentist or public speaking, but it's something that everybody should do because how else are you going to get more money? You're going to rely on somebody else to determine what you're worth and whether you deserve a raise? Yeah, I know. With some companies, it's automatic, but with many companies, it's not. And even if it is automatic and everybody in the company gets a blanket 2% or 3% raise, you may barely be keeping up with inflation, which is the price at which everything's going up. So no matter where you are, no matter what company you're in, whether it's big or it's small, I recommend that you start asking for a raise on a fairly regular basis. So here are my tips for asking for a raise. Tip number one is set time aside and know a little bit about your boss, their personality, and what you think is going to be most conducive with them. Some companies have status meetings or regular updates, and if you don't at your company, or if you do and you don't think that that's going to be sufficient because that's to cover some very specific business updates, then I want you to make an appointment with your boss and let them know that you want to talk about your compensation. Tip number two is I want you to have stats and I want you to have facts about what you have contributed to the organization. Maybe it's certain metrics, maybe it's sales, maybe it's savings for the company. Don't just ask for a raise because you think you deserve it, because maybe you got some extra expenses, maybe you've got into a car accident, I don't know, maybe you're getting married, maybe something's happening in your life that you need the money. You have to think about why the company should actually pay you additional funds. And a great way to do that is by having some stats and having some facts about the contribution that you've made, especially if you can tie that contribution to either additional revenue that the company has made or some savings that you've been able to help them. Because if you serve their bottom line, there's a greater chance they're going to want to serve yours. Tip number three is I want you to do some research. I know you might have been in the organization for a while and just thought, hey, yeah, I deserve an extra $5,000 or whatever the case may be. But I want you to do some research. Take a look at some other job postings at other similar companies and see how much they're being paid. Because you don't want to come in and be all like egotistical and say like, hey, I need more money, when the market's not actually giving any more money for that role. But especially if you've been at a company for a while and you've just gotten kind of the 2% or the 3%, it's very possible that you're not being compensated in a way that's keeping pace with what's happening in the market. So I'm not saying go into your boss and say, hey, I heard company X will pay me this much money and threaten to leave. Don't do that. But make sure that you know what's being compensated or what's being paid for a role that's similar to yours at a similar type of company. Tip number four is ask for something specific. Don't just walk into your boss's office in the conversation and say, hey, give me more money. I want more money. Sure, we all want more money. Maybe in your heart and your gut, that's what you're screaming, give me more money. But if you ask for something specific, and I recommend you ask for something a little bit more than you think they might actually give you, then you're actually going to be in a better position in terms of conversations. If you come back in and you say, I'd like a 5% raise, well, when your boss goes to have the conversation with HR, they may come back and say, okay, you can have 4%. But if you just say, hey, I want more money, if your boss goes and talks to HR, they'll come back and say, oh, Limor, you've done such a great job. Let us give you an extra 1.5%. Then you're going to go back to your desk and be like, rough. That's not what I wanted. But if you don't ask for something specific, well, then how are they going to know exactly what you want? It may be a salary percentage, or it could be a per hour dollar amount increase. It could be a commission increase. There's lots of different things depending on your company and how you're being paid for the work that you're doing, but go in and ask for a specific type of increase. Tip number five is I want you to be firm and I want you to be confident. You may be inside yelling and screaming and nervous and shaking like a leaf, but I want you to come across as confident. So use your body language, sit up tall, and if you need to, grit your teeth or your toes, but make sure that you come across as confident in your ask. One other thing you may want to take into consideration when you're asking for a raise or even planning for this conversation is the time of year. So in my opinion and my experience only, I don't know if this is like this for everybody, but I've had more success asking for a raise at the time of year when not all the raises are being handed out. If that's the time when you ask for a raise, and that may feel more natural because you may be having sort of a end of year performance review conversation, if you ask then, that's when the company's giving everybody additional money. So if you ask in an off season, so I'm not saying like a week or two after, but maybe halfway through the year, maybe with a mid-year review, maybe slightly before when the company's not necessarily looking at giving raises to everyone, if you are being underpaid or if you put a very good reason why you should be making more money, that could be a better time to achieve some success. Now, I know this is super scary, whether it's at your year-end review or at any other point in the year, but think about your future. If you're gonna get, let's just say, I don't know, 3, 4, 5% increase every year for, let's say, the rest of your working days, what you do this year, how much you negotiate right now is gonna be the baseline of how much you're going to be able to get in terms of increases for future years. That brings me to today's Tweetable. Asking for a raise today will impact your financial future forever. And forever is a really long time. So have your future self thank you today for having the guts and the courage to ask for a raise. That brings me to my challenge. If you haven't gotten a raise in a while, if you don't think that your compensation is keeping pace, well, set up an appointment and talk to your boss. Ask for a raise. Go through each of these steps and make sure that you are defending your worth and you're being compensated for that. Don't forget to access the free downloadable below. I've included a checklist of things that you need to do to be able to prepare. And if you're really nervous and you're not comfortable with this, have a practice round. Do it with a friend, do it with a family member, do it with a mentor. But practicing in advance will make sure that you're confident and ready to go. Did you like this video? Did you learn something? Subscribe to my channel, it's free, and share it with your friends. And if you want even more tips and tricks to make your finances fun and exciting, come on over to limor.money. I've got all kinds of resources for you to download for free. Remember, I'm not here to change who you are or how you live your life. I just have strategies to make you even more financially fabulous. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Till then, stay fabulous. Oh, please, can I have a little bit extra money? Please, please, please.